Knowing God's will from our will. Hello, y'all. I'm Diana Brianne. Well, I was in my church group today with my church lady friends, and we got into a great discussion, and one of the ladies brought up sometimes our will is different from God's will. And yet we're so adamant about making something happen. It's sort of like trying to fit a piece of a puzzle into a puzzle that it doesn't belong. It just doesn't fit. It just doesn't go. It just won't connect. And even if it does connect, it's not going to come out the way that it should. And so that was kind of what we talked about today, and I just loved that, and I wanted to share that with you all. And it just really got me to thinking about it. It just got me to thinking about how sometimes our will is not the same as God's will, and how we are not to fear. There's a healthy fear, like a bear charging at us through the woods, and that's instinct, and that's a good fear for us to get out of that bear's way for safety. And yet many fears people have that are unhealthy, and I talk a lot about that. And yet at the same time, we have to realize that God has a will for our lives, and sometimes our will for someone else is not God's will for them. So we think we're trying to push someone in a direction that they don't want to go in, and maybe that's not necessarily the will of God. And sometimes even people that go in a wrong direction, they meet up with a right direction at some point. Now, I'm not ever saying go in a wrong direction. And yet God can meet you at any point, at any intersection, on any road. Even if it's a wrong road, he can turn you around, or he can point you in a brand new direction that is a right direction. It may not be the same direction as your original direction, but it may be a brand new one. I think sometimes people go down a wrong road to find a right road. And maybe that's not the right way to do it. And I most certainly wouldn't want to do that, because wrong roads tend to lead to wrong destinations, wrong places, and wrong outcomes. And yet often on that wrong road, there are right road exits that one can get off on. Not always, but often. And so I think that we have to remember that sometimes people go in a direction that maybe isn't necessarily wrong, but it's not the road that we would choose for them. And yet perhaps God's will for them is totally different than our will for them. Perhaps God's will is totally different than our will for ourselves. So it's very important to know what your right purpose is in life. Are you going in the right direction for your life? Is this the will of God, in my opinion? That's how Grandma would put it. And so I never give advice, suggestions, information, recommendations. I just share with you my perspective, okay? So I just wanted to come on here and share a little bit about what we talked about today, that sometimes our will is not necessarily the same as God's will. Sometimes God has a different plan for our lives that we don't see. So if something is not working out, maybe we need to just pursue it from a different angle, and it will work out if it's meant to be. And yet some things are truly not meant to be. We're to take a different direction. And sometimes that it shows up in different ways as God's will. From my house to yours, may God bless you. And I hope to talk to you soon again. And I do hope you like, share, subscribe. Talk to you then. Bye-bye.